Alana Karinga did, and others, they went to East Africa and they saw this ceremony celebrating the harvest. It's cold here, but over there they're harvesting fruits and vegetables, and it's that time of year. So they were harvesting, so it's a recognition of harvesting the fruits from our labor and all the work that we have put in throughout the year. So that is relevant to us here. So it's to reinvigorate and restore and reclaim a sense of identity amongst our people. It's for our family, for our community, and for our culture. Ashe? All right. Part of the purpose, though, I want to illustrate that Kwanzaa is not just a ceremony. It's a non-religious ceremony. It's non-heroic, meaning it's not based on one individual. It's non-military. So it's open to everyone. And it's part of our African culture, it's part of reclaiming our culture as African Americans. So it's open to everyone. We're very inclusive people. I just want to highlight, though, that it's not just about this day or the 7 days in the week. It's about a worldview, it's about a philosophy, it's about a way of life, about how we can uplift ourselves, how we can uplift our family, how we can uplift our community, how we can uplift our people. If we embody and exercise these principles, we can get ourselves out of the predicament that we're in. So this is something that needs to extend way beyond December 26th through January 1st. I'm going to ask for a commitment from you all. If I see a number of familiar faces, when I see you all out in public, I'm going to ask, how have you embodied any one aspect, any one principle of Kwanzaa, so we can make it something that's real and alive? Can we try that as a community? I say? Okay. So to explain some of the core elements that you see here at the table, we have many different things. For one, we have, I'm going to ask you all to repeat after me, the mazao. Everyone say mazao. And it's a key Swahili word that means the fruits, the vegetables, the nuts, everything that you see here symbolized, that's the mazao. All right, so that symbolizes food, but food is part of what? It's part of community, it's part of togetherness, it's part of what's essential to keep us alive. So we have the mazao. We have the mkeka. Everyone say mkeka. And that is what you see, this cloth or the mat. A lot of times you'll see a mat that's woven. That represents what? Our ancestors. Those who came before us. Those who have laid the foundation. So hence, everything that you see here is laying on top of this mkeka, on top of what our ancestors have brought to us, what our elders hopefully have instilled in us. So that's the symbolism there. Then we have the mbuzi, or corn. Everyone say the mbuzi? Or the corn. The corn symbolizes what? It symbolizes life. I heard it. This symbolizes the children. So typically in a family, you would have one piece of corn per child. Even if you do not have children, you still have the corn to represent children in your extended family, children in your community. It's not about a biological thing. It's about the family that we have in our community. So typically a family that does not have biological children will still have 2 pieces of corn to represent the children that they are part of raising in our community. Ashe? Then we have the Mishumba Saba. Everyone say Mishumba Saba. That is the 7 candles. Saba 7. So that's the 7 candles. We have the red, we have the black, and we have the green, representing the African liberation colors, the African liberation flag. And we'll talk more about the symbolism of that in just a moment. We have the Kikombe Umoja. Everyone say Kikombe Umoja. Or the unity cup. Umoja meaning unity. So this is the cup that unifies us. This the circle is symbolic. If we were having a celebration at home, this would be passed around individual to individual, symbolizing the unity, and everyone takes a sip. And the oldest elder in the family takes the last sip and grants permission for the next activities to begin. Then we have what did I forget here? So we have the plan, yes, for pouring libations, which you all saw earlier. We have so the books, in a sense, the book symbolizes the knowledge, but it also symbolizes gifts. So Kwanzaa is about gift giving, but gift giving meaning not shopping and going out to stores. This is not a commercial celebration. Gift giving means give something that you made, give something of yourself, give something that you have that someone else may appreciate. It's not about commercialization. This is supposed to be non-commercial, not like Christmas has become, unfortunately, where the whole thing for too many people is about going out shopping and getting the discounts, getting the gift. This is not meant to be that at all. So did I miss anything? Oh, the kinara. I'm sorry, the kinara. So the kinara is what the symbols rest upon, and again, that symbolizes the unity that keeps us together as a family. Ashe?
Ashe.
Okay. So how many elements did I just talk about?
7.
7. I've just talked about 7 elements. So the number 7 is significant in the African worldview. 7 days of the week. If you look at many different African cultures, depending on the day of the week you were born, you have your day name. So the 7 was recognized to be masculine, 7 feminine names. We've got the 7 candles, the 7 entry points into the body. There's the 7 locks that you'll see on the Olmec heads in southern Mexico, and so on and so forth. So wherever Africans went, the number 7 was very significant. When we pour libations, we pour this 7 different times. Typically, we would have 7 elders in our council of elders who are representing those who are not here. So 7 is very significant. Ashe.
Ashe.
Bring it down just a little bit. And then last, we would like to talk about the actual principles of Kwanzaa. And today, this year, what's the theme for Kwanzaa here in Evanston today? A legacy Kwanzaa. So the legacy, we're talking about the legacy. So we want to take a moment to honor 7 ancestors who embody the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. Not that they're the only ones, not that they're the greatest ones, but we have chosen 7 amongst many that embody the 7 principles. And we have permission to proceed with that. And before we proceed with that, I do want to take a moment just to acknowledge Brother Tim Rose. Can we please give it up to Tim Rose? I mean, I think the name says it all, but everything that this brother puts into not just Kwanzaa, but the Fleetwood Jordan Theater, but to our community at a variety of different levels, he embodies the Nguzo Saba, the 7 principles. He embodies what it looks like, what it feels like to live that which you believe. So I just want to give recognition to Brother Tim Rose. Likewise, Chrissy Harris is, that's what, yeah. The honor women for the 5th Ward. And I can go on each one of them. But I just want to at least acknowledge them by name. And Larice Bell, I don't know if she's here, the new executive director of Shorefront. Oh, she's in LA. Okay. Well, you all can let her know that we recognize her and we lifted up her name. Because the information I'm about to share here was in partnership with Shorefront, in partnership with family members of the 7 ancestors that I'm going to represent. So to keep myself on point, I'm going to do something uncharacteristic. I'm going to read portions of this, so we can keep this moving. And I brought up my spectacles to even help with that. So the 7 principles and the 7 ancestors that we're going to uplift. These are not necessarily the most prominent or the most accomplished ones. I will not be reading off their resumes, Rather, here are 7 among many, many great Evanston ancestors who exemplify the Nguzo Saba, or the 7 principles. You all still here, okay? Okay. From various sources, most notably Shorefront and the family members being honored, I will share a little bit of their stories, some parts of their stories that embody Kwanzaa, that illustrate the principles of our collective Black culture, principles of this legacy Kwanzaa, principles for the upliftment of our people, of our family, the upliftment of our cute culture, and of our community here in the Eton Village. These principles are relevant to who we are today and who we are trying to become tomorrow. These ancestors show us what it looks like in action, and we will honor these 7 ancestors. Hopefully they will continue to inspire us and future generations to carry on the legacy. This is one small recognition, and I ask in advance for forgiveness for any mistakes that I may make. But lastly, this too is a call of action to you all, as I mentioned earlier, to commit to living out at least one of these 7 principles. So this is not just a holiday, it's not just one week in the year, but it becomes a way of life. Your commitment is a response to the question, which of these 7 principles am I going to embody in a greater way in 2025? Ashe? First, representing the Black candle, which is Umoja, we're going to lift up the name of Yvonne Davis. Anyone here knew Miss Yvonne Davis? She was born in 1937 in Evansville, Indiana. Not even in Evanston, but what she contributed to Evanston is what Evanston is all about. She was the 2nd founding member of Unity. How many people have heard of Unity, the scholarship? Right, there we go. Along with Louise Brown, she was an educator. She was an activist in our community. I have to say she was a Delta, amongst many other things. And she exemplified the passion to do something better, particularly for our young people in Evanston. As an adult, she was frustrated with the negative publicity of Black people, particularly of Black youth. So she took it upon herself to make a difference and to honor young people in our community. So together, Ms. Davis and Ms. Brown dedicated themselves to beginning the Unity Scholarship Program in 1984. That's a long time ago. Along with Charlene Jones, who created the logo for Unity, and Ms. Helen Palmer Cooper, who I'm honored to say is my grandmother. According to Yvonne Davis, quote, "The symbol is a proud symbol of Black community organizations working together towards a unifying experience." That's the unity that we're talking about. She said there are no big I's and no little U's. That's a quote. The Unity Scholarship is comprised of over 20 different organizations who come together to give out over $1 million, over $1 million to our young people in our community. They give out scholarships, but it's also become part of our tradition here in Evanston. It's part of a community aspect. Yes, it's sharing food, it's breaking bread, but it's also about developing relationships. Ms. Yvonne Davis said, "Unity works because we want it to work." Ms. Davis made her transition just 8 months ago on March 13th of this year at the age of 87. How many people knew Ms. Yvonne Davis? Is there anybody here who comes from her family? Any representatives? And who is that we see? All right, her son Jared, and her daughter-in-law, Beatrice. Give them a round of applause. So the first principle is the principle of unity. Umoja is defined as to strive for and maintain unity in the family, the community, the nation, and the race. In her family, in her community, among her people, she exemplified Umoja. Ashe?
Ashe.
And before we go to the second principle, which would now come to the red one, let's also demonstrate Umoja unity by supporting our vendors. Let's please support our vendors. That's part of this whole village right here. That's part of why we are here, is also to support our vendors. The second principle, Kujichagulia, self-determination. We're going to honor Miss Doria Johnson. How many people knew Doria Johnson? Okay, great. We got a few people here. She was born in 1961 in Evanston. She attended the Crawford family reunion in Abbeville, South Carolina. And it was there that she discovered her passion for history, particularly the history of her great-great-grandfather, Anthony Crawford, who was brutally lynched. From that point on, the Crawford legacy became part of her work. She established a foundation in Anthony Crawford's name. She traveled the world over, speaking about her great-great-grandfather's rich history and the history of African Americans. She was a griot of our people, a voice for the untold communal and individual stories of victory, of resistance, and of celebration. Her service, please hear this, her research and service on the United States Steering Committee for the Apology on Lynching was a centerpiece securing a 2005 U.S. Senate apology for lynching in the United States. After that, Doria became partners with activists around the world speaking on behalf of human rights. She traveled to Palestine, Israel, South Africa, Europe, Sri Lanka, Ferguson, Cuba, and many other locations. It was in 2016 that she was most responsible to see that Emmett Till, that his casket rests and resides in the archives of the National Museum of African American History and Culture. Doria was behind that. Doria Johnson. She collaborated with Brian Stevenson on the Equal Justice Initiative program of lynching. But clearly, one of her greatest accomplishments was the 2016 centennial commemoration of the lynching of her great-grandfather, Anthony Crawford, in Abbeville. Doria made her transition February 14, 2018, at the very young age of 56. Who knew Doria? Any family members representing Doria? So we give thanks by honoring our ancestor, Doria Johnson. For Kujichagulia, self-determination, to define ourselves, name ourselves, create for ourselves, and speak for ourselves. That's exactly what she did in her life, and it's part of her legacy. And part of self-determination is for us to start our own businesses. We have many businesses here, many entrepreneurs, in which we can exemplify and support Kujichagulia, their self-determination to start their businesses. Please support our businesses. Third, which would be the green candle here, we have Ujima, collective work and responsibility. How many people have heard the name Edwin Jourdain Jr.? Okay. So a lot of people know he was an alderman in Evanston from 1931 to 1947. He was the first African-American alderman in Evanston. And 2032 Darrow in Evanston is where he lived. That's recognized as a heritage site. So if you need to put that in your phones, 2032 Darrow Avenue in Evanston is recognized as a heritage site. He was behind integrating the dorms at Harvard University. When he was doing his graduate work, he challenged the president of Harvard University, sat him down, and he was behind a 2-year boycott that brought Harvard to integrating its doors. He was not born here, but as he was an editor and working for the Chicago Defender, he found out about Evanston. He loved Evanston. He loved the black community in Evanston, particularly the 5th Ward, and he decided to reside here. He served at Ebenezer Church. He was a member there. How many people know that he was the director of the Emerson Street YMCA as well? Yes, he was the director there. And he also was a staunch supporter of the quote-unquote black hospital in Evanston, where I was born, along with my brother, my sister, my mother, and my father's community hospital. In 1930, Edwin Jourdain wrote an editorial upon which he talked about gerrymandering, or how the black community was going to be split. And with that, we were going to lose our power, we were going to lose our political voice, we were going to lose our connection to the Emerson Street YMCA, to Foster Center, and other resources. He was the one behind that saying, no, this cannot happen. He refused to allow that to happen. He then became the alderman of the 5th Ward. Many people don't know that we have Fleetwood Jourdain Community Center, right? So yes, Jourdain, that's Edwin Jourdain. However, many people don't realize that he was the one that approached the most prominent African-American architect in the country. And in partnership with him, they designed what was then Foster Center, which is now the Fleetwood Jourdain Community Center. At that time, that was a state-of-the-art community center. It was the first community center in Evanston. Edwin Jourdain was behind that. That's just another one of his many, many, many accomplishments. Essentially, he laid the foundation for black political power here in Evanston. He made his transition in 1986, while many of us are still alive at the age of 86. The principle of Ujima, collective work and responsibility. This is what he embodied. That collective work and that collective responsibility also involves supporting our vendors. That's another way to exemplify that. The 4th principle, Ujama. Everyone say Ujama, which means cooperative economics. For that one, we honor Bill Logan Jr., who happens to be my father. And again, we're not reading out resumes. Many people know that he's the police chief and he did this, that, and the other. However, as far as cooperative economics, when he founded FAM, the Fellowship of African American Men, how many people know FAM, basketball program at Fleetwood Jourdain? When he founded the Chessman Club, how many people know the Chessman Club or have been recipients of their grants and support? That's part of cooperative economics. But he did not do it alone. It was collective work and responsibility. He did it with many other people. His name is often called, but he would tell you himself he did not do it alone. It was out of the racial oppression that he experienced growing up in Evanston, particularly in the 5th Ward. That's what instilled that sense of collective work and responsibility and that cooperative economics. He also, everyone knows on Church and Dodge, what store is at Church and Dodge right now? On the northwest corner? C&W, Clarence and Weaver. Clarence and Wendy Weaver. Anyone know them? Okay, yes. Another black business support. But back in the early 1970s, my mother and father, along with James Ingram, had their store there. Where they had, on the corner where they had the convenience store, that was the meat market. And next door where they served the ice cream, that was the convenience store. So prior to, that's part of cooperative economics. Although my mother and father were working there, but they did that along with James Ingram. And lastly, I would say growing up, one thing I saw from my father, not only what he exemplified out there, but the spirit of Ujama within his personal life. I noticed that from Dr. Reynolds, some of you all may know these names, Dr. Reynolds, Dr. Cheeks, Dr. Hill, Mr. George King, Adolph Mulroney, Jim Lee, Doc Cannon, Woody Cannon, Ken Williams, Mr. Mylan, Alvin Gaskin. They were our family plumber, carpenter, the cleaners, the electrician, the banker, the barber, the attorney, the dentist, the realtor, the insurance agent. They were all black men. And that's just, he didn't promote that. He didn't talk about, that's just what our parents did. That's just how they got down, supporting our community. So they embody the essence of the principle of Ujamaa. So any representatives of Bill Logan out in the audience? Oh, just happy to see my sister Cheryl out there. Wave your hand, Cheryl. My brother-in-law James, and myself. Thank you all. So for that cooperative economics, you can support our vendors. The fifth one, Nia. Nia means purpose. For that, I would like to lift up the name Fred Hutchinson Jr. How many people have heard that name? Okay, so we got a few. Fred Hutchinson Jr. He was born in 1912 at 1904 Asbury Avenue. If you want to go see where that is, 1904 Asbury Avenue. This man was a self-taught aviator. So we're lifting up purpose. He had a purpose. He eventually trained black military cadets at Tuskegee. He also flew in Haiti. He was the captain of an airline in the British West Indies. He ferried bomber planes to England during World War II. He was one of the first early black aviators to cross the Atlantic, right here from Evanston, Illinois. When he was in high school, this goes to show you, let's be mindful of the gifts we give our children. His father gave his son an airplane when he was in high school. When he saw that plane, that totally lit him up, and the rest, in a sense, was history. His son is saying, quote, "My grandfather knew that my father was always interested in aviation since early high school. He learned from studying books. He learned from an instrument panel through trial and error. He learned through asking questions on flying techniques from aviators at other airports." I mean, imagine that. That's how this man learned it. By the age of 20, he became the manager of Northwest Sky Harbor Airport, which was then in Northbrook, Illinois. The manager at the age of 20. And he controlled the ground school there. Before World War II, he enlisted in the U.S. Ferry Command in Miami, Florida, but he was denied because he was black. After all of those accomplishments, but then he was denied because he was black. So what did he do? He took himself, his wife, their children, they moved to Canada. They moved to Canada, Montreal, Canada, and there he became a captain in the airlines. He flew, he trained other pilots, he flew military planes from Canada to Europe. He was a captain with the British West Indies Airways. He flew the president of Santo Domingo on his plane. Now mind you, this is a man who was self-taught. I want to keep coming back to that. He trained cadets who fought in Tuskegee, who fought with Tuskegee, and he partnered with two of his friends to establish an airport in Haiti. And once that didn't succeed, then he opened up a school there to train aviators and pilots. He also went to South America and Colombia and flew and taught. Once he was done teaching and flying, he came back to Evanston, and with his family at 1900 Asbury, He took the family business over, and it was a corner store where they sold fruits and vegetables and candy and etc. And that's how he lived his last days, running that store for his family. He died in 1962 at the age of 50, at the very young age of 50. So for that purpose, for that principle of Nia, we give thanks to Mr. Fred Hutchinson. And let's give our vendors some support and give them and support their purpose, support their businesses. The sixth principle, creativity, Kuumba. Has anyone heard of Miss Kay Davis? Miss Kay Davis. She was born in 1920. Her name was Catherine Elizabeth Wimp. Professionally known as Kay Davis, she was an American jazz singer, and she performed with Duke Ellington Orchestra. Anyone heard of Duke Ellington? Okay, she performed in his orchestra. She was born in Evanston. She went to undergrad at Northwestern. She went to graduate school at Northwestern. Her grandfather was William Twiggs. You know Twiggs Park? That was her grandfather. She's best known for her wordless vocals on pieces such as Transbluency and On a Turquoise Cloud. Look those up. She also sang lyrics as well. She is the only person that Duke Ellington allowed to reprise certain songs. One was Creole Love Call. She also appeared in movies. One was Swing in 1949. Another one was Salute to Duke Ellington. She toured England with Duke Ellington, around Europe, and she married in 1952. She retired in Florida, where she passed away. She had one child, and she ended up passing away in Florida at the young age of 93. So the principle of creativity, she took it upon herself to utilize her creativity. And last but not least, we have which principle? Imani, which means faith. And for this, we want to honor the one and only Miss Dolores Ann Petway Holmes. Anyone knew Miss Dolores Holmes? She was born in 1937. She came to Evanston when she was 3. And yes, she was the founder, one of the founders of Family Focus, the alderwoman woman in the 5th Ward. But she loved this community. She had faith in our people, faith in our children. She had faith in our families. She had faith, especially in our young people, and that was exemplified in her life's work. When her children were young, noticeably her eldest daughter, Kim Holmes, obviously she was here earlier, Miss Holmes, lived with her mother, and in the house they raised the children. And she said, what a wonderful advantage that her kids had because her mother was there helping to raise the children. She said, quote, when there are strong family ties, kids know it. So in 1968, she enrolled her child in Evanston's newly formed Head Start program. She eventually became a volunteer in the Head Start program, and she eventually ran the Head Start program. In 1969, she attended a White House conference on children, and after that is when she was lit up, came to Evanston, and kind of took over, y'all. So yes, she got her degrees in education, and got her masters, and etc., but she did all that as an adult with 2 young children. In 1970, after the schools in Evanston were desegregated, there was a 2-day boycott of all the schools, and Ms. Holmes was behind that. They were boycotting District 65 because of the unfair treatment of black teachers, black children, and black families. Ms. Dolores Holmes was behind that. During her time, she served over 2,000 black and brown families in Evanston at Family Focus. Over 2,000. She was very intentional that when Family Focus started, that it happened in the old Foster School. That was her intention and that was her design, and that's why that happened. In 2022, when she was interviewed, she said, the question is, what makes you most proud about Evanston? And in 2 words, she said, the people. Out of all that she's done in her life, out of all that she has accomplished, she said it was the people. She said, I stand on the shoulders of so many, including Edwin Jourdain and many others. And today we want to honor as the 7th principle, faith. A person who exemplified that faith, who showed that faith when times were hard, was Miss Dolores Holmes. I say, and we can show faith in our vendors by patronizing them. So in closing, again, I just want to say, let's embody these principles. Let's find out ways that we can exemplify them in our own life. Let's make them real and not just a holiday, not just for a week out of the year, but something that has become part of our personal life. If we had more time, we would do a workshop right now and say, you know what? We're going to ask you how you're going to exemplify the principles. What does it look like? What are the steps you're going to take? What's the timeline? Who's your accountability partner? Like, we would go through all that. But I'm just giving that to you all, and you try to embrace that as best you can. We want to thank you all for being here. Ashe. 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 Legacy Kwanzaa. Oh, Legacy Kwanzaa. Oh, Legacy Kwanzaa. The East Town Village. The Legacy Kwanzaa. Umoja. Kujichagulia. Ujima. Ujamaa. Imani. Thank you for supporting our community. If we can all put our hands up, we're going to end with Harambe 7. How many times? 7 times. Harambe means let's all pull together. That's another key Swahili word means let's all pull together. So we're going to say Harambe, meaning all pull together. 7 times. Okay? Are we ready? I'll go like this so you all don't have to worry about counting. Okay? Okay, here we go. Harambe!
Harambe, 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 Harambe. Thank you so much, Ms. Chrissy Harris. Care to